On February 25th, I got my second dose of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. And for it being such a momentous occasion in my life and in the history of this world to get this vaccine we've all been waiting for, it was a pretty unceremonious occasion. I was sitting in some cold room in the back of a pharmacy close to my house. I waited 15 minutes to see if I would react negatively to the vaccine, and I didn't. And then I walked home. I didn't even take the COVID vaccine selfie everybody was taking. I didn't announce it to everybody. I just went home because I didn't really know what it meant. I mean, I knew I was safer. I knew that I was less likely to have a severe infection of COVID-19, but I just didn't know what it meant for my life, for our lives together, for what life will look like in our world. And so I just walked home. And 2 months later, almost today, I am still wearing a mask. Early on in the pandemic, I think I was like one of the first people to wear a mask, and I still remember the first time I wore my mask in a grocery store. I think I was the only one in the room, and I got a lot of looks that day. I felt so exposed and so out of place because people were not used to seeing a mask on somebody's face. But here we are like a year later, and I'm starting to feel the same way when I go into a grocery store because, frankly, I'm once again one of the very few people wearing a mask, and I'm feeling a little bit out of place. But I want to tell you something. I do not wear this mask for me. Now, I know that anyone is at risk of having a severe reaction to COVID-19, but looking at the data, people in my age bracket who are relatively healthy and don't have other health complications, a risk of severe infection or death is very unlikely for somebody like me. And so I didn't necessarily wear this mask for me all those months ago, and I didn't wear this mask this past year, and I'm not wearing this mask today because of me. I'm wearing this mask for the least of these. Now, I didn't make that phrase up. I learned that phrase from Jesus, especially in the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 25, when Jesus is talking about the judgment of the nations. And the king will say to those at his right hand, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was naked and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me." And the righteous will say, "When was it, Lord, that we gave you food and gave you something to drink and gave you clothes?" And the Lord says to them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me." The Christian faith has always been about the least of these. The church has always been a place where everyone is welcome, but especially the least of these who might not have anywhere else to go. Now, right now, there's a lot to be excited about in our world. The CDC changed some guidelines for people who've had the vaccine and said that you no longer necessarily need to wear a mask to be safe in public. And that's really exciting, but as I see stores have less and less people with masks, and I see mask requirements going away in gyms and restaurants and stores, I am thinking a lot about the least of these, especially people who maybe don't have access to the vaccine. Young people ages 0 to 11 who still are not allowed to get the vaccine. People for whom situation or health limits them from getting the vaccine. People going through cancer treatments for whom the vaccine might not be as effective. And I'm thinking a lot about the least of these, especially as they're going out in public and seeing less people wearing masks and having no idea who's vaccinated and who's not vaccinated, and feeling vulnerable and afraid in those environments. And especially as I think about the church, this place where we've always welcomed the least of these, this place should feel safe for everybody, especially the least of these, those who are vulnerable and still don't have access to the vaccine, especially still during this pandemic. And so, yeah, I'm vaccinated. Yeah, I'm pretty safe, I think, from COVID-19. But I'm going to continue to wear this mask in church and in public for the least of these, so that somebody who might be vulnerable can see me wearing a mask and know that they are safe.